One bolt remains, but first I lift up the opposite corner of the assembly enough to make a finger-width gap. I slip a tether in through a vacant bolt hole and clip it to itself. Then I clip the other end of the tether to my belt. Now I have 4 different tethers attached to me, and I like it that way. I may look like Space Spider-Man, but who cares? I still have 2 more tethers coiled on my tool belt, ready to go if needed. There's no such thing as too much tether. I unscrew the final bolt and the assembly slides down the nose. I let it past me and it halts at the end of the tether. It bounces a few times and knocks into the hull, then sways. I look into the compartment. The beetles are right where they're supposed to be, each in their own cubbies. The 4 little ships are identical except for a small engraved name on each bulbous little fuel bay. They're labeled John, Paul, George, and Ringo, of course. Status question? Recovering beetles. I start with John. A little clamp holds it in place, but I easily force it open. Behind the probe is a compressed air cylinder with a nozzle pointed outward. That's how they're supposed to be launched. They'd need to be far away from the ship before they can start up their spin drives. Even an adorable little baby spin drive will vaporize anything behind it. John comes out pretty easily. The probe is bigger than I remember, almost the size of a suitcase. Of course, everything seems bigger when you're holding it on an EVA with awkward gloves. Old John weighs a lot, too. I don't know if I could even lift it in Earth's gravity. I tie it off to the backup tether, then reach in to get Paul. Rocky can work fast when he needs to. And he needs to. We're in a questionable orbit around Adrian. Now that the computers and guidance systems are all back online, I can see the orbit. It's not pretty. Our orbit is still highly elliptical, and the closest part of it is way too close to the planet. Every 90 minutes, we touch the tippy top of the atmosphere. It's barely an atmosphere at that altitude, just a few confused air molecules bouncing around, but it's enough to slow us down just a teeny tiny bit. That slowdown makes us dip a little deeper into the atmosphere on the next pass. You can see where this is going. We scrape the atmosphere every 90 minutes, and I honestly don't know how many times we can get away with it. For some reason, the computer doesn't have models for oddly elliptical orbits around the planet Adrian. So, yeah, Rocky is in a hurry. It takes him just 2 hours to disassemble Paul and understand most of how he works. This was no easy task. Before we passed Paul into Rocky's area of the ship, we had to make a special cooling box. The beetles have plastic parts inside that would melt in Rocky's air. A big lump of astrophage took care of that. Astrophage may be too hot for humans to touch, but it's cool enough that plastic won't melt. And of course, it has no problem absorbing the extra heat and keeping things at 96 degrees Celsius. Paul has a lot of electronics and circuitry inside. Rocky doesn't follow that too well. Iridian electronics isn't nearly so advanced as Earth's. They haven't invented the transistor yet, let alone IC chips. Working with Rocky is like having the world's best engineer from 1950 on the ship with me. Seems odd that a species could invent interstellar travel before inventing the transistor, but hey, Earth invented nuclear power, television, and even did several space launches before the transistor. An hour later, he's bypassed all the computer controls. He doesn't need to understand them to bypass them. It's just a matter of knowing what wires to directly apply voltage to. He jerry-rigged the spin drive to be activated by an audio-driven remote control. Pretty much everywhere humans use radio for short-range digital communication. Iridians use sound. He repeats the process for Ringo and John. This time it's much faster because there's no research effort. That leaves George unmodified. The little beetles don't have much thrust, so the more of them we use, the better, but I have to draw a line somewhere. I want to keep one safely in reserve, unmodified, ready to fulfill its original mission. Thanks to Rocky, I might just survive this suicide mission, but there are no guarantees. The Hail Mary is in bad shape, to say the least. Several fuel tanks are gone, there's damage and leaks all over the place. There are talmebas sneaking around waiting to eat whatever replacement fuel Rocky gives me. I can count at least 100 ways the trip home might fail, so before I set out, I'm going to send George on his way with all my findings and some talmeba aboard. I would much rather have kept 2 in reserve, but we need 3 beetles to be able to vector the thrust so we can angle the ship whatever direction we need. Rocky passes the 3 modified beetles through the dormitory airlock to my side.
You mount on hull, he says. Aim 45 degrees out away from center line of ship.
Understand, I sigh. Another EVA on a spinning ship. Yay! But what else can I do? We can't zero the rotation without thrust. I do the EVA. The only hard part is getting to the right place. The airlock is near the nose, and I need to mount the beetles on the rear section, and the ship is currently divided into 2 halves, connected by nothing but 5 cables. But the designers of the Hail Mary thought of this. There are loops all along the cables that you can attach a tether to. I'm getting better at the extremely odd skill set of EVAs in non-zero gravity, and unlike my death dance on the nose of the ship, the rear has lots of handles. Mounting the beetles is easy enough. I attach them to handles on the hull to immobilize them, while Rocky's xenonite glue sets and makes a permanent bond. In the end, I have John, Paul, and Ringo evenly spaced in a ring around the hull, each one angled so their engine points 45 degrees away from the long axis of the ship. Beetles set, I say into my radio, inspecting damaged area.
Good,
Rocky replies. I make my way to the spot that was ruined by the fuel tank rupture. There isn't much to see. I jettisoned the bad tanks at the time. A rectangle of missing hull plates shows an opening where the tanks once were. The area surrounding the hole tells a tale of trauma. Black scorch marks mar the otherwise shiny hull plates. There's clear and obvious warping on 2 of the neighboring panels. Some panels are bent, some have burn marks. Not too bad.
Good news.
Burn marks are odd, don't you think? Why burn marks?
Much heat.
Yeah, but no oxygen. This is space. How did it burn?
Theory. Many astrophage in tanks, some probably dead. Dead astrophage have water. Dead astrophage not immune to heat. Water and much heat become hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen and heat and hull becomes burn marks.
Yeah, I say. Good theory.
Thank.
I get back across the space rope bridge that is the cabling, then inside the airlock without incident. Rocky waits for me in his ceiling bulb in the control room.
All is well, question?
Yes, I say. Controls for John, Paul, and Ringo are good? He holds identical control boxes in 3 of his hands. Each has a wire leading to a wall-mounted speaker microphone attached to the hull. He taps a readout box with a 4th hand.
Communication established. All beetles function and ready.
I strap myself into the command chair. This next bit is going to be uncomfortable. We put the beetles at 45-degree angles from the ship's center line so we can use them to angle the ship as needed. It also lets us control the ship's rotation. But we can only use the Beetles when the ship is in one piece. So first, I have to pull the halves together. Conservation of rotational inertia being what it is, that means the ship is going to spin really fast. In fact, it'll spin exactly as fast as it was when Rocky had to save me last time. We haven't gained or lost any inertia in that time. I bring up the centrifuge panel on the main control screen. Well, it's just above the original main screen. That main screen got wrecked in the Adrian adventure, but this one's good enough. You are ready?
Yes.
The G-forces will be strong, I say. Easy for you, but hard for me. I might fall unconscious.
Unhealthy for human question?
There's a hint of quaver at the end. A little unhealthy. If I pass out, don't worry. Just get the ship stable. I'll wake when we stop spinning.
Understand.
Rocky holds the 3 controls at the ready. Okay, here goes. I put the centrifuge into manual mode and bypass 3 warning dialogues. First, I rotate the crew compartment 180 degrees. Just like last time, I take it slow. But unlike last time, I have everything battened down. So as the world turns around and gravity changes directions, the lab and dormitory aren't thrown into disarray. Now I feel half a G pushing me toward the control panels. The nose is facing away from the rest of the ship again. I order all 4 spools to spool in without regard to ship rotation rate. The icons on the ship show the contraction as ordered, and the force of my body into the restraints increases. After just 10 seconds, the forces are at 6 Gs and I can barely breathe. I gasp and squirm.
You are not healthy,
Rocky squeaks.
Undo this, we make new plan.
I can't speak, so I shake my head. I feel the skin of my face stretch away from my cheeks. I must look like a monster right now. The periphery of my vision fades to black. This must be the tunnel vision I've heard about. It's a good name. The tunnel gets dimmer and dimmer until eventually it's all black. I wake up moments later. At least I think it's moments later. My arms float freely and only my restraints keep me from drifting out of my chair.
Grace, you are okay question?
I rub my eyes. My vision's blurry and I'm still groggy. Yeah. Status?
Rotation rate is 0,
He says.
Beetles hard to control. Correction. Beetles easy to control. Ship powered by beetles hard to control.
You got it done, though. Good job.
Thank.
I release my restraints and stretch out. Nothing seems to be broken or wounded, other than my burned arm from before. It actually feels great to be back in 0G. I'm achy everywhere, as a rule. Lots of physical labor, and I'm still recovering from injuries. Getting that pesky gravity out of the way puts less stress on my body. I cycle through screens on the monitor. All systems are okay. At least nothing's damaged further than before.
Good. What is next action question?
Now I do math. A whole lot of math. I have to calculate the thrust durations and angle to get us back to your ship using the Beetles as engines.
Good.